What happens when Keira Knightley walks onto the set of The View expecting a light conversation, and suddenly finds herself in a tense, unscripted clash with Sunny Hostin that no one in the room saw coming? Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The camera opens on the familiar panel, the energy upbeat, the audience already warmed up. You can hear the applause swell as Keira walks out, smiling, waving politely. She sits down, crossing her legs, adjusting her posture in that composed, almost reserved way she's known for. Sunny leans forward first, smiling but focused. "Keira, it's so good to have you here. It's been a while." Keira nods, her voice calm. "It has, yes. Thank you for having me." Joy chuckles lightly from the side. "You always bring that calm British energy. We need that here sometimes." Audience laughs softly. Whoopi gestures toward Keira. "So let's talk about your new project. Everyone's been buzzing about it. It's different for you." Keira tilts her head slightly. "It is. It's more grounded, more personal. That's what drew me to it." Sunny nods, but there's a shift, subtle at first. Grounded is interesting, because some critics are saying it's also political. Keira pauses, just a fraction longer than before. "I think everything is political to some degree." Sunny presses, still smiling but firmer. "Sure, but some would say you've been more vocal lately, especially in interviews, about social issues. Do you see yourself as an activist now?" The audience quiets a bit. Keira lets out a small breath. "I wouldn't label it that way. I just speak on things that matter to me." Alyssa jumps in lightly, trying to keep it conversational. "But that's the thing. When celebrities speak out, it carries weight. Do you feel a responsibility there?" Keira nods slowly. "Of course. But I also think there's a danger in expecting perfection from public figures." Sunny leans back slightly, then forward again. "But is it about perfection or accountability?" There's a slight murmur in the audience. Keira's expression tightens, just a bit. "Accountability is important, yes. But it has to be balanced with understanding." Sunny's tone sharpens just a notch. "Understanding for whom?" There's a pause. You can feel it. Whoopi glances sideways, sensing the shift. "All right, we're getting into it now," she says with a half smile, trying to ease the tension. But Sunny continues, eyes still on Keira. "Because when you speak on certain issues, especially from a position of privilege, some people feel it comes across as detached." The audience reacts, some oohs, some claps. Keira blinks, clearly taken aback. "Detached?" Sunny nods. "Yes. Like it's easy to say certain things when you're not living those realities." Joy shifts in her seat. "Okay, now we're getting spicy." Light laughter, but it doesn't fully land. Keira straightens slightly. "I think that's an unfair assumption." Sunny raises an eyebrow. "Is it?" Keira's voice remains controlled, but there's an edge now. "Yes, because you don't know my experiences." Sunny responds quickly. "I'm not claiming to know them. I'm saying perception matters." Alyssa interjects, hands slightly raised. "I think what Sunny's getting at is how audiences interpret." Keira turns slightly toward her. "I understand the point. I just don't agree with it." The audience murmurs again. Whoopi leans in, trying to balance. "This is a good conversation. Let's just keep it respectful." Sunny nods, but she doesn't back off. "Respectful, absolutely. But also honest. Because when someone with your platform speaks about systemic issues, it can feel curated." That word lands hard. Keira's expression shifts more noticeably now. "Curated." Sunny shrugs lightly. "Media-trained, polished, safe." There's a sharper reaction from the audience this time. Keira exhales, a small shake of her head. "I think that's quite dismissive." Sunny leans forward again. "Or it's realistic." A beat. Joy looks between them. "All right, now I'm curious where this is going." Keira's tone is still calm, but firmer now. "You're suggesting that because I articulate my thoughts carefully, they're somehow less genuine?" Sunny responds immediately. "I'm suggesting that sometimes it feels like we're getting a version of what you think people want to hear." A few gasps ripple through the audience. Keira pauses again, longer this time. You can see her choosing her words carefully. "That's not true," she says quietly. "And it's actually quite frustrating to hear that." Sunny doesn't soften. "Why?" Keira's eyes lock on hers now. "Because it dismisses the idea that someone can be both thoughtful and sincere." Alyssa nods slightly. "That's fair." Sunny glances briefly at Alyssa, then back to Keira. "But sincerity isn't just about intention, it's about impact." Keira responds, a bit more quickly now. "And impact can be misinterpreted." The audience is fully engaged now, no chatter, just focused silence. Whoopi leans back slightly, watching closely. Sunny's voice lowers slightly, but it's more intense. So when people feel disconnected from what you're saying, that's just misinterpretation. Kira's composure starts to crack just a little. No, but it's not entirely my responsibility to control how every word is received. Sunny tilts her head. But it is your responsibility to understand why it's received that way. That line hits. There's a noticeable pause across the panel. Joy quietly mutters, "Okay." Kira presses her lips together, then speaks. "I do try to understand, but I won't accept being told that my perspective is invalid because of who I am." A small wave of applause comes from part of the audience. Sunny nods slowly, acknowledging it, but she doesn't retreat. No one's saying it's invalid. We're questioning how it lands. Kira's voice sharpens slightly now. And I'm saying that line of questioning can easily turn into dismissing someone entirely. Alyssa leans in again. "I think both things can be true." Sunny cuts in gently but firmly. "But we can't ignore power dynamics." That's when Kira shifts in her seat, visibly more tense now. "I'm not ignoring them," she says, her voice now clearly more emotional. "But I also won't be reduced to them." The audience reacts again, some applause, some murmurs. Whoopi raises a hand slightly. All right, this is a real conversation, and I appreciate it. Let's just take a breath here." But the energy doesn't settle. Sunny looks directly at Kira, her tone steady. "No one's reducing you. We're asking you to reflect." Kira responds immediately this time, no pause. "And I am. But I feel like you're not listening to my answer." That line shifts the energy again. Sunny's expression tightens just slightly. "I am listening." Kira shakes her head. "It doesn't feel like it." The audience lets out a collective, "Oh." Joy leans back, whispering under her breath, "Here we go." And in that moment, the conversation crosses from debate into something more personal, something rawer, less controlled, exactly the kind of live tension that no one can script and no one can predict. The silence hangs for just a second longer than usual, the kind of pause that feels louder than any argument. You can hear a few scattered claps from the audience, but they fade quickly as everyone senses this isn't over. Sunny leans back slightly in her chair, her expression composed but clearly firm. "It doesn't feel like I'm listening," she repeats, her tone measured. "That's interesting, because I could say the same thing." A ripple moves through the audience again. Kira's posture stiffens. "I'm answering your questions directly." Sunny nods. "You are. But answering isn't always the same as engaging." Joy exhales audibly, half laughing. "Okay, now we're getting into semantics." Alyssa glances between them, trying to keep things grounded. "I think what Sunny means is, there's a difference between responding and really sitting with the criticism." Kira turns her head slightly toward Alyssa, her voice still controlled, but clearly strained now. "I am sitting with it. I just don't agree with the premise." Sunny jumps back in. "But that's the point. When multiple people are saying the same thing, at some point you have to ask, why?" The audience reacts again, this time more divided. Some nodding, some murmuring. Kira lets out a breath, this one heavier. "And I do ask why. But I don't think the answer is simply that I'm, what was the word? Curated?" Sunny doesn't hesitate. "Polished. Controlled." "Yes." Kira shakes her head, a small, incredulous smile appearing for a split second. "You say that like it's a flaw." Sunny tilts her head. "In some cases, it can be." Whoopi leans forward, palms slightly up. "All right, let's bring this down just a notch. Because I think we're starting to talk at each other instead of with each other." But the momentum doesn't fully slow. Kira looks back at Sunny. "So what would you prefer? That I come on here and speak carelessly?" Sunny responds immediately. "No, I'd prefer authenticity over perfection." That word again, authenticity. Kira's eyes narrow just slightly. "You're implying I'm not being authentic." Sunny shakes her head. "I'm saying it can come across that way." Kira's voice lifts, just a little. "But you're stating it as if it's a fact." The audience reacts with a louder, "Oh." Joy leans toward Whoopi. This is that moment where the tea is hot. Whoopi gives a quick side glance. "Yes, we see it." Alyssa tries again. "Maybe this is about perception versus intention." Sunny cuts in, still calm but more direct now. "But perception matters more in public discourse." Kira doesn't wait this time. "It matters, but it's not the only thing that matters." Sunny leans forward again. "It's the thing that affects people." Kira responds quickly, her tone now noticeably sharper. "And intention affects how those words are formed." There's a brief overlap, both starting to speak at once, then stopping. The audience lets out a low hum of anticipation. Sunny gestures slightly with her hand. Go ahead. Keira nods once. Thank you. What I'm saying is, there's an assumption here that because I choose my words carefully, I'm somehow less genuine. And I find that frustrating. Sunny watches her closely. And what I'm saying is, sometimes careful wording can feel like avoidance. That lands even harder than before. The audience reacts, some clapping, others clearly uncomfortable. Kira's expression changes again. This time, there's less restraint. Avoidance of what? Sunny answers without missing a beat. Of saying something that might actually upset people. A louder reaction now. Joy sits back fully. Okay, wow. Keira leans forward slightly for the first time, her composure visibly slipping. I've said plenty of things that upset people. Sunny nods, but always in a way that feels safe. Keira lets out a short, disbelieving laugh. Safe? Sunny holds her gaze. Yes. Keira shakes her head again, more firmly this time. I don't think you're giving me enough credit. Sunny responds just as firmly. I think I'm holding you to the same standard as anyone else with influence. Alyssa raises her hand slightly. Okay, but can we acknowledge that this is a tough balance? Because. Keira interrupts, not loudly but clearly. I'm not asking for less accountability. I'm asking for fairness. That line draws applause from a section of the audience. Sunny nods slowly, acknowledging it again, but her expression doesn't soften. Fairness also means being open to criticism. Kira's response comes quicker now. I am open to criticism. I'm just not open to being mischaracterized. Sunny leans back, crossing her arms lightly. And I would argue that I'm not mischaracterizing you. The tension spikes again. Whoopi steps in more firmly this time. All right, hold on. Because now we're at a point where it's becoming personal, and that's not what we're here to do. But Keira speaks again before the moment fully shifts. It already feels personal. The room quiets again. Sunny looks at her, her tone slightly softer now, but still direct. It's not meant to be personal. Keira shakes her head slowly. But it is. When you question someone's authenticity, that's not just about ideas, that's about who they are. That line hits differently. The audience reacts more quietly this time. Less noise, more attention. Joy nods slightly. That's a fair point. Sunny takes a brief pause, one of the first real pauses from her. I hear that, she says. But public figures don't get to separate the two completely. Keira exhales, looking down for a moment before looking back up. I understand that. But there has to be a line. Sunny responds, her tone steady. And maybe that line is different for different people. Alyssa leans in again, trying to bridge. I think what we're seeing here is two perspectives that aren't actually that far apart, but they're clashing in how they're being expressed. Whoopi nods. Exactly. Because both of you are talking about responsibility, just from different angles. Keira glances at Whoopi, then back at Sunny. I'm not denying responsibility. Sunny nods. And I'm not denying your right to speak. A small pause. It almost feels like the tension might ease. But then Keira adds, quietly but firmly, but I don't appreciate being told that my voice is somehow less real because of how I express it. Sunny responds just as quietly, and I don't appreciate when impact is dismissed in favor of intention. There it is again, two positions, neither backing down. The audience is completely silent now. Joy whispers, this is intense. Whoopi leans forward again. All right, we're going to take a quick pause. But before she can fully pivot, Keira speaks again, this time with a sharper edge than before. I'm not dismissing impact, she says. I'm saying you're assuming my intent. Sunny's eyes narrow slightly. And I'm saying your intent doesn't erase the impact. The overlap returns, both voices rising just slightly, not shouting, but no longer calm. Keira, but you keep framing it as. Sunny, because that's how it comes across. They stop again, almost at the same time. The audience reacts with a louder mix of gasps and murmurs. Whoopi raises her voice just enough to cut through. Okay, now we're definitely taking that pause. Laughter breaks out, nervous but real. Joy claps once. Yes, let's breathe. Alyssa exhales, smiling awkwardly. That might be a good idea. The camera pulls back slightly as the tension lingers, not resolved, just suspended. And as the show prepares to cut to break, you can still see it in both their faces. Neither one satisfied, neither one finished, and everyone in the room knowing that whatever comes next is going to be even more uncomfortable. The show comes back from break, and the energy in the room feels completely different. The applause is still there, but it's tighter, more cautious. Like the audience isn't sure whether to relax or brace themselves again. Whoopi leans forward slightly, her tone calm but deliberate. All right, we're back. And before we continue, I just want to say, this is what live television is. Real conversations, real disagreements. Nobody's storming off, nobody's being silenced. We're just talking. A few claps ripple through the audience. Keira nods politely, but her expression is more guarded now. Sunny sits upright, composed, but there's still a visible intensity in her gaze. Joy jumps in with a half smile. And apparently, we're really talking today. That gets a small laugh, easing things just a notch. Alyssa adds, I think it's important though. These are the conversations people are having at home. Sunny nods. Exactly. Keira shifts slightly in her seat. I agree. I just think the way we have them matters. Sunny turns toward her again. So let's talk about that. There's a subtle reaction from the audience, anticipation again. Sunny continues, her tone controlled but pointed. Because earlier, you said you felt like I wasn't listening. I want to understand that. What specifically made you feel that way? Keira pauses, taking a breath before answering. It felt like every time I explained my perspective, it was reframed as something else. Sunny nods slowly. Reframed or challenged? Keira meets her gaze. There's a difference. Sunny leans in slightly. Explain that. Keira doesn't hesitate this time. Challenging is asking questions. Reframing is deciding what my answer means before I've finished giving it. The audience reacts, some clapping, some murmurs of agreement. Joy tilts her head. Okay, that's a strong distinction. Sunny considers it for a moment. But when you're speaking in a public space, interpretation is part of the conversation. Keira responds quickly. Yes, but interpretation shouldn't override what's actually being said. Sunny's tone tightens just slightly. But it does all the time. Alyssa steps in gently. I think what Kira's saying is, there should be room for clarification before conclusions are drawn. Sunny nods, but she doesn't fully yield. And I think what I'm saying is, people don't always get that luxury in real life. That line shifts the tone again. Kira's expression hardens a bit. But we're not just real life right now. We're on a platform where we can actually take that time. Sunny responds, just as firm. And we're also representing conversations that don't get that time. There's a beat. Whoopi watches both of them closely, letting it play out, for now. Keira exhales slowly. I understand that, but I still think it's unfair to assume the worst interpretation of what someone is saying. Sunny raises an eyebrow. Is it the worst interpretation, or just one you don't agree with? The audience reacts again. Keira leans forward slightly, her voice more direct now. It's an interpretation that ignores context. Sunny counters immediately. Or highlights it. Keira shakes her head. No, it simplifies it. Sunny responds, a bit sharper. Sometimes things need to be simplified to be understood. That lands heavily. Kira's composure slips further now. Or sometimes they're oversimplified to fit a narrative. A louder, oh, from the audience. Joy looks between them again. We're back in it. Whoopi raises a hand slightly, but she still lets them continue. Sunny's voice lowers, more intense now. What narrative do you think I'm trying to fit? That question hangs in the air. Keira pauses, but not for long this time. That I'm out of touch. Sunny doesn't flinch. And you don't think that's a valid question to ask? Keira responds immediately. Not in the way it's being framed. Sunny leans in. Which is? Kira's voice tightens. As if it's already been decided. The audience is completely locked in. Alyssa glances at Whoopi, who gives a slight nod, still letting it unfold. Sunny speaks again carefully. I didn't decide anything. I asked questions based on how people are responding. Keira shakes her head. But the way you're asking them implies a conclusion. Sunny's tone sharpens again. Or maybe it reflects a pattern. That word, pattern, lands hard. Keira sits back slightly, then forward again, clearly frustrated now. You keep doing that. Sunny tilts her head. Doing what? Keira answers, more firmly than before. Taking what I'm saying and turning it into something broader that I'm not actually claiming. Sunny responds just as quickly. Because what you're saying doesn't exist in a vacuum. Kira's voice rises slightly. I know that, but it also doesn't exist only in the way you're defining it. The overlap begins again, voices slightly raised, tension fully back. Sunny. I'm not defining it, I'm responding to it. Keira. But you are defining how it's being perceived. They stop again, both clearly frustrated. The audience reacts with a mix of gasps and scattered applause. Whoopi steps in more assertively now. Okay. We're not going to talk over each other. Joy nods quickly. Yes, one at a time, please. Alyssa adds, because this is where it starts to lose clarity. There's a brief pause. Whoopi gestures toward Keira. Go ahead. Keira takes a breath, trying to steady herself. Thank you. What I'm trying to say is, I'm open to criticism. I really am. But I need that criticism to actually reflect what I've said, not what's assumed about me. A small wave of applause follows. Sunny listens, nodding slightly, but her expression remains firm. And what I'm saying is, sometimes what's assumed is based on repeated impressions. Keira shakes her head again, frustration clearly visible now. But those impressions can be wrong. Sunny responds immediately. And they can also be accurate. The tension spikes again. Joy leans back. We're in a loop. Whoopi exhales. A little bit, yeah. Alyssa tries once more to bridge. Maybe the real question is, how do you break that loop? There's a brief pause as that lands. Keira answers first, quieter now but still intense. By actually listening to each other. Sunny responds, just as quietly. I am listening. Keira looks at her directly. Then hear me when I say, you're not fully hearing me. That line lands harder than anything before it. The audience goes silent. Sunny's expression shifts, just slightly. Not backing down, but more focused. And hear me when I say, this isn't just about you. Another pause. Keira's jaw tightens. I know that, but I'm the one sitting here being questioned. Sunny nods. Because you're the one with the platform in this moment. Keira responds quickly. And that means I have to accept being misrepresented. Sunny fires back, more sharply now. No, it means you have to accept being challenged. Keira's voice rises again. I am accepting that. What I'm not accepting is the way it's being done. The audience reacts loudly now, applause mixed with murmurs. Whoopi leans forward again, more firmly than before. All right, that's enough. Because now we're not moving forward, we're just repeating. Joy nods. And getting louder. Alyssa gives a small, tense smile, which is usually the sign. There's a brief, uneasy chuckle from the audience. But the tension doesn't fully break. Keira sits back, crossing her arms lightly, her expression still tight. Sunny mirrors the posture slightly, both of them holding their ground, neither willing to concede. And for the first time since the conversation started, there's a clear divide at the table. Not just a disagreement, but a moment where both sides feel completely unheard. Whoopi looks between them, then out at the audience. We're going to shift gears in just a second. But even as she says it, you can feel it. The conversation isn't finished. Not for them, not for the audience, and definitely not for what's going to happen once the cameras stop rolling. Whoopi lets the silence sit for a moment before speaking again, her tone calmer but more decisive now. All right, we're going to bring this back in. Because this has been a real conversation, and I think people are seeing just how complicated these discussions can get. The audience claps, somewhat relieved but still charged. Keira uncrosses her arms slowly, adjusting in her seat. Sunny sits upright again, composed, but the intensity hasn't fully left her expression. Joy leans forward slightly, trying to soften things. I mean, look, this is why people watch The View. Not because we all agree, but because we don't. A few laughs ripple through the audience. Alyssa nods. And I think it's important to show that disagreement doesn't mean disrespect, even when it feels uncomfortable. Whoopi glances at both Keira and Sunny. Exactly. So let's do this. Before we wrap, I want to give both of you a chance to just say clearly what you want people to understand from your perspective. No interruptions. The audience quiets again. Whoopi gestures toward Keira first. Keira takes a breath, visibly trying to reset. Her voice is calmer now, but still carries the weight of everything that just happened. What I want people to understand is, I'm not trying to avoid responsibility. I'm not trying to present a version of myself that's polished for the sake of it. I choose my words carefully because I care about what I'm saying. She pauses briefly, glancing down, then back up. And yes, I understand that not everyone will agree with me. I understand that people will interpret things differently. But I think it's important to allow space for nuance, for complexity, and for the idea that someone can be both thoughtful and sincere at the same time. A wave of applause follows, stronger this time. Sunny listens, nodding slightly. Whoopi then turns to her. Sunny. Sunny inhales, then speaks, her tone steady but less sharp than before. What I want people to understand is this isn't about attacking anyone personally. It's about recognizing that when you have a platform, Your words don't just exist in isolation. She glances briefly toward Keira, then back out. They affect people. And sometimes, even when you have the best intentions, the impact can be very different. So asking hard questions, that's not about tearing someone down. It's about making sure those conversations are real and not just comfortable. The audience reacts, applause again, though more mixed. Joy nods. I think that's fair. Alyssa adds, yeah, I think both of those things can exist at the same time. There's a small pause. The tension hasn't disappeared, but it's shifted. Less explosive, more reflective. Whoopi leans back slightly. And that's where we land. Two perspectives, both valid, both incomplete without the other. She looks out toward the audience. And that's the point of this table. The audience applauds again, this time more unified. Keira glances toward Sunny. There's a brief moment, just a second, where it looks like she might say something. Instead, she gives a small nod. Sunny returns it. Not a smile, not quite an agreement, but an acknowledgement. Joy breaks the moment with a light tone. Well, that was a segment. Laughter breaks out, easing the room. Whoopi smiles slightly. Yes, it was. The show transitions, wrapping up the segment, but the energy lingers. Even as the cameras begin to pull back, you can see producers moving slightly faster than usual, the hosts exchanging quieter words off mic. And then, just like that, the live broadcast ends. But the story doesn't. Within minutes, clips from the exchange between Keira Knightley and Sunny Hostin begin circulating online. Short clips. Close-ups. The moment where Keira says, "It doesn't feel like you're listening." The moment Sunny responds, "It's not just about you." Each one dissected, replayed, debated. On social media, reactions split almost instantly. Some viewers side with Keira, praising her composure and calling out what they see as unfair framing. Comments flood in about how she stood her ground and refused to be boxed into a narrative. Others back Sunny, saying she asked necessary questions and didn't let the conversation stay surface level. They highlight her point about impact, about accountability, about not letting celebrity status shield difficult conversations. And then there are those caught in the middle, saying both made valid points, but the conversation escalated too quickly. Clips trend. Hashtags form. Debate threads grow longer by the minute. Behind the scenes, things are quieter, but not simple. Backstage, Keira is seen speaking with a producer, her tone calm but serious. There's no dramatic exit, no shouting, just a focused conversation about how things unfolded. Sunny, on the other side, is in discussion with members of the production team, still composed, still firm, but clearly replaying the exchange in her mind. At one point, the two cross paths briefly. There's no argument, no continuation of the clash. Just a short, polite exchange, muted, professional. Whatever needed to be said on camera was said there. Later that day, media outlets begin picking up the story. Headlines focus on the tension, the debate, the moment things shifted from discussion to confrontation. Clips from The View dominate entertainment feeds, each outlet framing it slightly differently. Some calling it a heated debate, others labeling it a rare on-air clash. Neither Keira nor Sunny posts immediately. No instant statements, no clarifications. Just silence, at least at first. And that silence only fuels more conversation. Fans begin speculating. Was it planned? Was it genuine? Did it go too far? But anyone who watched it live knows. It didn't feel planned. It felt like one of those moments that only happen when live television stops being predictable and starts being real. By the evening, discussion panels on other shows begin referencing the exchange, analyzing both sides, replaying clips, inviting their own guests to weigh in. And the conversation keeps growing. Not because there was a clear winner, but because there wasn't. Because it was messy, unresolved, human. And that's what people keep coming back to. Back on the set, long after the audience has left and the lights have dimmed, the chairs sit empty. But the impact of that conversation lingers. A reminder that sometimes the most talked about moments aren't the ones that go perfectly. They're the ones that don't. And now it's your turn. What do you think? Was Keira Knightley right to push back the way she did? Or did Sunny Hostin raise the more important points? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories.